So beginning with basically the same place where the inside edges of the feet roughly parallel, just a few finger widths apart. And then really just experience the soles of the feet and take a moment to release the weight, having it come even. And then let's engage, we probably already have actually, but the way the leg muscles engage onto the leg bones, being aware of that, maybe adding just a little bit, just to help us bring our awareness there. And then follow the thigh muscles, especially drawing up into the hips. And so we get to lift our kneecaps. And as we do that, as the inner thighs engage, probably a little more weight ends up on the inner line from the base of the big toe back toward the heel. Back in the hips, we sink the tailbone just a little bit. And want to feel open at the back of the waist. And then this is work up the back body and create a lifting between the shoulder blades, up between the shoulders, the back of the neck, kind of an opening and lifting. And really the back of the skull, lifting there as well. So that length along the spine, always looking to recover that for ourselves. And then we'll come back down into the hips on the front body and just tapping the fingertips or stroking with the fingers and the abdominal wall here, just gently engaging. And then we'll bring the fingers low and we'll work with the breathing on the in-breath, coming straight up the center line, having the elbows up higher than the shoulders. And on the out-breath, lowering the arms. So just gently lengthening the out-breath by breathing out through the mouth. As we're working with our breathing, just monitoring the tailbone and the neck. And we'll give ourselves one more. And then when we're finished here, dropping the attention back down into the feet. And let's just pick up just the big toes. And with the big toes lifted, add a little bit of weight on that inner line. So the little toes clear contact. And then let's shift. And so we're going to move the weight to the outer edge and back in. And we'll get 2 or 3 of these, just rolling the weight from the inner line to the outer edge. And then when we roll in, just lift all the toes. And then put only the big toes down. We'll keep the other toes lifted. Let's go back and forth. So big toes up, little toes down, and switching as we're ready. As we're doing this, again, monitoring the tailbone, keeping that bit of a drop, a bit of sinking at the tailbone. And then when we pick up the big toes, pick up all the other toes, just pause for a moment, create a feeling of spreading them apart from each other. And then just ease them back down on the mat, and left and right, just gently dig them in the mat. And then just coming neutral, letting the foot release. Add a bit more energy at the thighs, check the tailbone. And then when we're ready to, we're going to lift our heels. And we've worked the toes already, so we'll just let them stay down unless we really want to lift them. Otherwise, just focusing on bringing the heels up. And then once we land the heels, just pausing there. And we'll take the feet a bit wider apart, just about hips width. Our hip sockets, actual sockets in a bit from the outside edge. Just try to feel the feet under the hip sockets. And then allow the knees to soften. Let the legs work kind of as springs, a little tucking again to the tailbone. And if we have one hand front, one hand back, just tipping back and forth. So the side to emphasize is the tucking under, and then we just release and let the hips go naturally back. And then when we come to tucking under, just make that clear. It doesn't have to be overdone, but just so it's clear in the body. We've got the hands at the hips, and we're going to start an easy circle from the hip. So knees and ankles moved by the hips. And then switching direction. When we come into the center, just pausing there for a moment, just reestablishing the hips, a kind of gentle spring in the legs, and then draw a flat figure 8 with the hips. And we can get a little bit of a swing here to the hips. And when we come through our center point, let's change our direction. And then when we come to center, just pausing there for a moment, feeling the feet, the tuck at the tailbone. And then when it's an exhale, we're going to slide our hands down. We're going to come just above the knees, fingers facing inward here. And then as you breathe out, we're going to push the back of the waist back. We're going to tuck the chin, press up at the neck as we tuck the chin. So we're looking to really round our back here. Now we'll keep the hands there on the thighs. When we inhale, take the breastbone forward, send the hips back outward, lift the heart, lift through the neck and the crown of the head. And we'll just, when we breathe out, reverse again by tucking the tailbone, pressing up at the neck. And we'll give ourselves one more. Whenever we breathe in, one more lengthening. Really lifting the ribs away from the hips. And when we do need to breathe out, tucking the tailbone and rounding over. And now we're going to go very tall when we inhale. So when we're ready for an inhale, float the arms up, let the hands come in front of the face, and then really lead up through the elbows and the shoulders and a feeling of pulling ourselves up from the arms and shoulders, and let the arms keep going. They open out, so they get very long. We're going to look up. I'm going to gently press our hips forward here. And when we need to breathe out, first the arms bend and the hands float down, and the eye follows the hands. And as the shoulders sink, the back begins rounding over deeply. And we just curl right back down again. Now we'll stay with the hands on the legs, and we'll take an inhale to lengthen right here, still monitoring that the back of the waist is long and the neck is long. And reversing on the exhale to a rounded back, moving the back of the waist back so we get that stretch through our lumbar. And then we're going tall again when we're ready, using the in-breath, releasing the arms up, drawing ourselves up as the arms lift, reaching fully, letting the hips move forward. And now to leave here, first we look straight ahead, turn the palms outward, and let the breath take the arms down. Okay, we'll give ourselves one more nice big inhale. So as we breathe in, let the arms float wide. So as the arms lift, also bring the shoulders up a little bit here, a feeling of taking the weight of the shoulders out of our ribs and letting our ribs lift. Our tailbone's that little bit tucked. The gaze can go upward. And when we're ready to come with the exhale, the palms face outward. Now we're going to bring the arms down, see if we can keep the weight of our shoulders off of our ribs. Okay, we'll just give ourselves a breath here. And from the soles of the feet up to the back of the head, feeling extended and open. And then we're going to put the hands back at the top of the hips. Our breathing outs will take our right side back. We'll look back over the right shoulder. We'll let the right arm release and we'll point back straight from the shoulder. And when we breathe in, we'll bring that arm vertical, looking forward. Breathing out, we touch the opposite shoulder and we run the hand down. And for ourselves, judging how low we can go. If we can go all the way down near the feet, we do so. If it doesn't feel like a good thing, then just stop at the low belly, come across the low belly, and then come back up there. So either version, to come back up, the hand runs on the same side, back to the top of the hips. When we want the other side, we'll exhale back, release the arm, and look behind. And as we breathe in, turning forward, bringing the arm up. The out breath, the hand runs down the opposite side, only to the depth that's appropriate for us today. Okay, so we're on our last cycle. Left side, our last side. And then once we bring ourselves back up, Just again, pausing for a moment to feel the length of the back body, with that little sinking in the tailbone and that lifting at the neck and the back of the head. And from there, we'll just swing the feet out, the heels out, and the feet out. Let's see if we can get our heels just past our shoulders, somewhere where it feels comfortable for us. We're going to swing the feet in and bend the knees, and that's kind of one movement. So keep the knees feeling comfortable. See if you can press on the inner line of the foot, just a little more pressure there than at the outer. At the knees, engage as if we're going to push them open, but I'm not going to try to press the knee outward, just that engagement. And on the inner thighs, engage and draw inward. And that really locates the legs and the hips with that little tuck at the tailbone. So now with the low body stable, when I inhale, I'm going to swing the arms up. And here I'm just going to push my palms to the ceiling. So I bent my wrists, pressing upward. Initially, basically just a little in front of the shoulders. So from the side, I've got the hands just that little bit in front of the shoulders. And I get the shoulders to move, the shoulder blades to move. And I feel a bit of movement there. So from there, I'm going to bring the arms down. I'm going to rotate again. My thumbs are outward, fingertips pointing down, pushing forward through the heel of the palm, pressing backward through the lower back of the waist, the lumbar pushing back, the neck moving back, the back of the head lifting up, and then just feel down the legs again. And then when you inhale, open out, float up a bit. And then when you exhale, soften the arms, and let the elbows bend, let the fingers fold in and touch the shoulders, and just gently open back out. Just 1 or 2 times, let the arms release and float softly here. And then whenever we land the fingers on the shoulders, pausing there. And then let's turn the right elbow forward, left elbow reaches back, right reaches forward. And we're just going to rotate smoothly side to side. So we want a feeling of the hips not really moving. They get dragged a little bit. And we're going to keep our face straight ahead so that we really get a deep rotation where the ribs and shoulders connect to the spine and down into the hips. And then monitor the soles of the feet. There's that gentle, almost grip from the downward energy. And then whenever the right comes forward, pause there and extend the right arm. That left hand, take it off the shoulder, lift the elbow, turn the fingertips down, push the elbow back, the palm forward, and then smoothly we're going to change sides. So the arms rotate and switch. So one elbow pressing backward and upward. And then let's hit that forward arm, go down a little bit. And we'll do that once more for each side, where we're pointing downward and pushing through the heel of the hand. And then next time an arm goes forward, pushing upward. And we'll go upward one more time. Okay, and then just smoothly come straight ahead, both palms out here. So fingers gently spread, palms push forward, and experiment with that movement of the shoulder blades. So we can find that. Once you've got movement at the shoulder blades, check with the low back and move it backward, sink the tailbone. And then when we're breathing in, just widening, floating up a bit higher. So one way to think about where my hands, one way to experiment here, if I look straight ahead and I don't turn my eyes, can I get my hands so they're just at the periphery of my vision? And just using that as kind of a basing off of my own body, I'm going to gently push out, move the neck back, back of the head up. And I want a feeling like I'm sitting on a little chair. There's a sinking at the hip and the tailbone. And we're going to leave here when we breathe in. So first I'm going to soften the arms and let the legs straighten. I'm going to come tall. And as I get up tall, I'm going to release the heels and let them turn and the feet adjust. And then the arms just float down when I come to breathing out. And then once we're down here, just turning the palm forward and the palm back outward. So a nice, slow, easy movement. And then just a gentle shaking. So really release the elbow here and the shoulder, and just this kind of floppy motion out of the arm. Okay. So we're going to do a little more work through the torso. Get my feet about hips width apart again. Actually, we'll go a little wider with the feet. Let's go a little wider. We'll turn them in a little bit, and we'll get just a comfortable little bit of bend at the knee. So it doesn't have to be as deep as we can go. It just gives us a little more fixture in the hip. And if the hip does move, we're more sensitive to it. So the in-breath is going to bring the arms up at shoulder height. And when I breathe out, I'm going to reach to the right. I'm going to reach to the left. And then always for ourselves, being willing to adjust our legs so we're comfortable, especially at the knee, ankle as well, but really especially with the knee. It's the one joint that doesn't have many degrees of movement the way the hip and the ankle does. Okay, so here I am at the right. When I get to the right, I'm going to pause. I'm going to rotate the arms. I'm going to press out at the right arm, then I'm going to swing it down and take the left up. And I'm really just going to push in both directions. And I'm going to lengthen up on the left side and press down at the right. And then from here, when I breathe in, I'm back in the center. And I'm going to go to the left. Left down, right up. Pushing, I'm rotating and connecting to the feet so as much as possible, even weight at my feet. And in-breath to center. Going back over now to the right, one arm down, one arm up. Now here on the upper arm, we're going to wrap over a little further. So I'm going to let the elbow bend. I'm going to turn the fingertips down here. And then I'm just going to push to the side. What I want to feel here on the left side, the open side, isn't so much that I'm curving over, but I'm stretching all along here. It's just a small difference, but I'm not trying to bend over so much as stretch long. And then the in-breath, when it happens, in neutral, and then reach. And we get that initial stretch, then I bend the upper arm, fingertips point down. As I press out, I want to create a feeling of stretching up long. So this upper elbow can also push up a little bit there to create a lengthening. And then an in-breath to neutral. We're going to do a couple more. So let's just pause in neutral and just get a couple of sides to side. And then when I go right, I'm going to take the right down, the left up. And I'm just going to, now I'm going to bring that right hand into my center line now. So it's just a little more movement there. And imagine that there's a post or a high stool there, and you're pushing the palm down onto that. And this upper palm pulses. And I want to minimize kind of leaning over. There's a little bit of that, but I want to feel like I'm lifting up rather than leaning. And the pulsing is pushing me to the side, but I'm lifting up. And last one. And then releasing, inhaling. And just settle the body here for a moment. And then when we're ready, we'll reach and left down, right up and over. So in the center, this lower arm's like I'm pressing down to the top of a post, upper pulsing, elbow pressing up, reaching up at the back of the neck. And then when I inhale, this is swinging up into neutral here. And when I exhale, just floating the arms down. And let's release the legs, swing the heels in, straighten the legs. And then let's just give the legs a little relief. Just easy stepping side to side. Now, when I do bring up the right, I'm going to have it open outward, back down, always being polite in the hip socket. And then let's explore. When it's the right, open it out, and then just end up touching it against the left and stepping down when we're ready. So this is a moment of balance and can be a long or a short moment. We don't have to have an idea of what it should be. It's really experiencing the sensation that is produced. And if we want to play, we can always extend the arms. Helps a bit with the balance. And when we do that left, that'll be our last. Okay, good. And then just pause, taste the weight through the feet. And then we'll go a little wider. So wider than we've been. And then my left leg, gonna turn it outward, gonna bend the knee and just lean toward that knee. Inhale brings me up. I'm gonna turn out the right. I'm gonna lean towards that leg. And we'll just go side to side, just easy with our breathing, looking after the knee, right? Some days it truly doesn't want a deep bend. So what we work on is how much distance we're putting between the feet. Always looking to have a position that feels strong. So when we get to our left, let's just pause there for a moment, and either stopping with the hand or the forearm on that front leg, what we want to feel is the feet and connect to the feet, especially some energy down the back leg so it's not lost. And so the back leg, that arm is free. We're just going to point back And as we point back, so we can turn this top side of the body upward. And so we're going to take a look down that back arm. And when we inhale, we're going to reach up for the ceiling. Now, as we reach up for these upper fingertips, this lower armpit also lifts up. And then again, feeling our feet, and then reaching straight forward. So we're going to create a long line from these reaching fingertips all the way into the back foot. And again, lifting in that lower armpit. And then we're going to leave when we inhale, we're going to sweep up. Now, as we come up, see if you can keep the angle and just bring the torso up. And then straighten the leg, turn the feet in, and pause for a moment. Just adjust a little bit with the legs. And then the right leg turns out, coming to whichever height is good today. And then once we're stable, strong in our legs, we'll release this back arm. We'll turn the upper ribs upward a bit. So we look down that back arm. Our breathing in reaches for the ceiling. And breathing out. So here, lift in both that lower armpit and the upper fingers. And then when you're ready, reach out and still lifting in that lower armpit. And then when we inhale, we're going to come up on the angle. And we're going to straighten the legs. And we're going to keep the legs straight. So work a bit with the distance. If it feels wide, come in a little bit. And then both hands, they touch onto this left leg and sliding down, going as low as we're comfortable. If it's okay to do so, drop the head, let the neck release and the head hang. And then when we do breathe in, bringing the hands up across the belly, exhaling down the other leg. So traveling up as we breathe in, and releasing as low as we're comfortable going as we breathe out. Now, at some point, we go to our left side. Whenever we get on our left side, we'll just pause. So at the left side, when we're ready to breathe in again, as we inhale, lift the right arm and just point up toward the ceiling. Lift the chest a little bit, take the gaze upward a bit. And then press evenly on the feet, use the thigh muscles, tuck the tailbone a little bit. And when you need to breathe out, bring that arm back down, let the neck relax. And then when we want to breathe in, let's lift the other arm. So left leg, left arm. And looking behind, and then carefully looking upward. And work with that back leg, engage the muscles in the thigh. And when you breathe out, bring the arm down, release the head and the neck. And a fresh inhale will bring us tall. We'll take the hands to the belly. Just pause for a moment here. And when we're ready, again, exhaling, going down the right leg. And on the right leg, we're going to take our right arm up. Looking and upward, lifting a bit through the ribs. And we come to breathing out. We'll bring the arm down. We'll release the head and the neck. So when we're ready with an inhale, let's bring right arm, right leg, looking behind and up. And releasing down, letting the neck release. Inhale draws us up. Again, just changing the distance a little bit between the legs, wider or closer, doesn't matter. That's what the body wants today. We're going to go down the left one more time. So as we're ready to, we start from the belly, just work our way down the leg. Now I'm on the left leg, so I'm going to take my left hand and reach between the right arm and the left leg. I'm going to point my fingers over there at the opposite foot. So the right elbow bends a bit, and I really reach through those left fingertips over toward that opposite foot. And then when I inhale, I release. I'm going to put the left hand back down where it can go, let the neck relax. And a fresh inhale to come back up. So a fresh exhale sends us down the right leg. And then when I'm ready, that right arm is going to reach towards that opposite foot. So it's just in front of the right leg, reaching over. I'm going to let that left elbow bend a little bit so I can get a slightly deeper reach. And then when I inhale, I'm going to relax that right hand back near the right foot, release the head. And a new inhale will bring me back up. Hands come to the belly. I bring my feet just a bit closer. I'm going to bend the knees a bit. I'm just going to put the hands down near the knees so I can lean out a little bit here. So from the side, I've got weight in my arms. My arms are pretty straight here. My fingertips point inward, and there's that feeling of dropping the hips down, the tailbone down, the back of the waist moving back. And really the job the arms have is to take some of the weight that would go on my back in this position and take it through the arms and shoulders into my legs. And initially, just be willing to fiddle with the feet till everything feels as comfortable as it can. So when I'm ready to breathe out, I'm going to tuck my tailbone, press the waist up, and then lift it. Although I lift at the back of the neck, I also tuck the chin. Don't let the legs straighten too much. See if you can work with how much bend to have. And then when I breathe in, I'm just going to ease out of that rounding of the back. And then let's bend the left elbow and bring the right shoulder inward with the right arm staying straight. So left elbow bends, right shoulder goes in, and I'm going to look over to that left side. And then when I breathe in, I'm going to come into the center. So both arms pretty straight here, arms helping with the weight. Right elbow bends, left shoulder rolls in with the arm straight. I look to the right. And when I want an inhale, I'm going to use it to come to the center. Exhale takes me to the opposite side. And once or twice more, gently side to side. So we began with the left elbow bent. We're going to end with the right elbow bent. So whenever we get there. And then from here, I'm going to bring myself tall. So I'm going to engage my feet, engage up the legs, and just lift out of that position and let the legs straighten. We'll walk the feet in. Okay. And now let's take ourselves down onto the mat. Just want to switch cameras. And today we'll just go down comfortably. If we want to use a couple of squats, that's great. We want to just go right onto the mat. That's always good too. And when we get down, just extending our legs and just a gentle bouncing in the knees and the legs. It depends on the surface you're working on. You know, if you've got a kind of a slippy surface, it can be easy to let the legs as they bounce come in close, go further apart. And at some point we've had enough, so we're just going to let it come to an easy stop, whatever distance they've ended up with, whatever distance we want to have. And I'm just turning my feet inward and outward. And then for this, we can find, no, I want my feet a different distance apart, because this is the hip socket that's ultimately taking the work. And hip sockets are one of the kind of anatomically most variable parts in our skeleton. So this distance can be very personal. And we just want to explore where it feels workable. And then just finding one with the feet turned in. So if you happen to have a real wide one, go for a narrow one. So if you can work your way into a narrower one. So narrow, I'm going to say shoulder width or less. My feet turned in, they don't need to touch. They don't need to be super close. And then initially, I'm just going to touch my legs and use the hands a little bit to help get height. So feel the sit bones sink down there, move the belly in, move the back of the waist back, lift up at the back of the neck. So pretty much, we're always looking for length in the spine or release in the spine. So right now we're looking for length. I'm going to lift up at the back of the neck, the back of the head. So I'm going to say I've got my legs narrower. So I'm going to take my arms wider. So initially straight ahead. I'm going to turn my palms up, the fingers down, gently press forward. I just need to feel my shoulder blades. They're easy to move here. I'm gently pressing out. When I inhale, I am going to float up toward the ceiling and just get the shoulders to lift here, the back of the neck to lift. And now I'm going to open wide. And somewhere I'm going to know for myself, it feels good for the shoulders. There's nothing being strained. It's just taking a bit of energy, but without difficulty at some part. So we vary this angle for ourselves. And when a feeling of the shoulders getting off the ribs. And see, we can keep the feet turned in a bit. This really throws work into the inner thighs, up the psoas, up the lumbar, the turning in of the legs. Now we're going to leave. Let the arms soften. Once the arms are releasing down, release the legs, and then bend the knees in. Put the hands back behind, just bend the knees up, and then we'll just ease the legs one side, then the other. So always gentle on the knee, always looking to create the movement in the hip socket and the SI joint, at the base of the spine, L5, S1, at the ankle. Okay, when we drop left, just release left and we're going to sit ourselves up. So I drop left, so my right arm, I'm going to take off the ground, initially just touch the right hip, have it lift and turn a bit. So whatever that is, just feel that extra bit of motion and then keep that right arm reaching out. Now, if we want here, we can reach through the fingertips or if the shoulder blade still has some available rotations, we're going to rotate the wrist, rotate the shoulder, push forward through the palm of the hand, and then I'm going to look downward with the eyes as I reach outward through the top of the head. And then when I inhale, I'm going to release that right arm. It's going to come up. I'm going to start to turn forward. I'm going to let it fall back to the right side and bring my knees up. I'm going to travel to the other side. So now the left hand just helps that left hip move a bit. And then it's going to sweep out. So either I'm pointing with my fingertips, or if I wish I bent the wrist, I'm rotating the arm, I'm moving the shoulder blade, and I'm really pushing outward. And then I'm going to leave again with the inhale, soften the arm, reach up. We're going to repeat this once more for each side. So left hand dropping down, dropping back, weight shifting back so the knees easily release, dropping to the side. So now my right hip gets the lift, it turns forward a little bit, and then the right arm extends more. I create the rotation if I wish. I press out through the palm of the hand, lift up at the back of the neck, and just this long stretch. Now we're back on the left side. So experience the left armpit and see if you can just take a little lift there that takes a little bit of weight off that left wrist and a little bit more work into the core of the body. Okay, and we're going to release. So I'm going to soften that right arm, let it swing up and swing back to the right. My knees are going to come up. As our last time. I'm going to drop over to the left. Excuse me, drop over to the right. Left hip turns. Left arm swings out and up, reaching with the fingertips or reaching with the heel of the palm, stretching outward. So our gaze is downward because we're working with the back of the neck, the back of the head. And then go inside that right armpit so you can create a bit more lift, taking some of the weight off of the right wrist. And then soften, release, melt back. So left hand behind, right hand behind. We're going to use the legs side to side 1 or 2 times. And then we're going to bring ourselves onto our back. So when we're ready, we'll plant the feet. We'll shift our hips forward. We'll come to our forearms. And then we'll come all the way down, laying the back down. So 2 places to check: the neck, back of the waist. If we can get them released, moving, in this case, downward, we're going to have a nice long open spine with lots of room between our vertebrae. So looking at the back of the waist, we add a tiny bit of weight to the soles of the feet, a little bit of energy to tuck the tailbone and release the back of the waist. And jumping up to the neck, sometimes it's very useful to, with the hands, hold the sides of the head and then use the hands to tuck the skull, tuck the chin a little bit, move the skull. So we tuck our chin, and now what we want to do is release the chest down. And then soften the hips, just soften the spine, and experience the position we have. So as we sink more weight into the hips, feeling what happens at the back of the waist. Most often it lifts a little bit. We can feel weight coming out of the back of the waist. So let's work gently by exhaling, tucking the tailbone, and very lightly pressing the top of the hips, the back of the waist towards the mat. When we're having an inhalation, lift the diaphragm off the mat. So base of the ribs, lifting up, letting the diaphragm expand in all directions. And if we'll feel in the hips, the weight now is moving down the sacrum, getting pretty much to the top of the tailbone. And gently back and forth. So it's a deep, slow rhythm. And what we want to explore, once we've got that back of the waist and the diaphragm moving, is what can we do with the back of the neck? And see if we can, by tucking the chin, have the neck start to sink toward the ground. We may need to occasionally lift and replace the head on the mat. At some point, we're having an exhalation, and we're going to pause on the exhale with the tailbone a little tucked in the back of the waist, more downward into the mat. When we get to that place, reach the hands down to the knees, put the knees in the hands, and use the arms to draw the knees towards the armpits. And then a nice big breath into the low belly, having it fill and expand like a balloon. And a nice long out breath to sink the belly down. And then when we're exhaling, let's just bring our knees closer towards each other, drawing the knees in and the heels a bit higher up than our knees. And then from here, let's release the arms and take the arms vertical, and then bend at the wrist, turn the fingers outward and keep turning so the fingers start to point toward the toes. Press up through the heels of the hands, and then tuck the chin and see if you can find a place where the neck gets to sink down. Keep the tailbone lifted up. Keep softening the throat and soften the breastbone and let it drop down away from the ceiling and drop toward the floor. And still pressing up through the palms. And then when we inhale, as we're breathing in, let the arms lower down close to the ears, just off the ground, and push out through the heels of the hands. Lift the tailbone a little bit higher. Pressing outward, sinking the chest, tucking the chin. And then taking the arms wide. So not quite shoulder height, just a little above the hands. Think of the fingertips at shoulder height rather than the wrists at shoulder height. And gently pressing wide. And then let's bring the arms close to the hips. So hands along sides of the body. Think of the wrists up above the hips. So fingertips are clearly off the ground. And then really push the shoulders forward. And if it's okay, we're going to try this, but it might not be okay. So it's all right to put the head back down. But what we're going to explore is the possibility of lifting the head, tucking the chin, and then pushing further through the arms and rolling that upper back up. So maybe we feel that we're at the bottom of the shoulder blades here, and then lift the tailbone a little higher and really create a curling in. And keep the chin tucked. And here, see if you can sink the breastbone down away from the chin. And keep pushing in the palms. And then we're going to get out of here by soft the arms, bend the elbows, grab the sides of the head. So hands, fingers interlaced behind the head. And then relax the weight of the head onto the arms. And just staying in this position for another breath. And then point the elbows at the knees. And see if you can, when you breathe out, touch the knees to the elbows. When you need to breathe in, stretch the right leg out 45 degrees, and that right elbow reaches for the left knee. When you exhale, see if you can touch knees and elbows again. When you inhale, left leg 45 degrees, left elbow to right knee. So inhales, we curl in tight, exhales, we curl in tight. Inhales, we lengthen the leg. And just set a rhythm. And when you stretch out a left leg, last leg, and then from there, just pause with the knees bent, guide the head down. So get the back of the head on the mat and take the hands to the knees, and then draw the knees in again towards the armpits. Now use the hands. We're going to circle the knees apart and close together. We're going to get circles in both directions. And then when the knees are apart, just pausing. And then bringing the feet up into the air above the knees and circle through the ankles. Just easy movement, both directions. And then let's go to circles for the foot around the knee. And then back into neutral, where we just let the feet relax with the hands on top of the knees. And have a nice deep breath into the low belly. And the knees, holding the knees where the low back is sinking into the mat. And then bring the knees together so they're touching. We're going to use the hands to lightly press them together. And with the hands, circle the legs. And now we're rolling our weight right around the outer edge of the sacrum. A handful of times in one direction. And whenever we're in a center line and we're ready to switch, changing direction. And then back into the center. And keeping the knees close. Let's just guide the feet back down onto the mat. Okay, now we're going to drop the legs to the side. So to do that, we're going to lift ourselves up a bit. So let's roll onto whatever side is facing the camera. It's the easiest side to start with. Just roll right over onto that side and it brings the knees onto the ground. And we just want to fiddle the hips a little bit so we're clearly on this lower side. And then we're going to fiddle the knees a bit so they're clearly at hip height. And the feet, they're stacked on top of each other and maybe back so they're lined up with the hips. So we won't necessarily get every one of these alignments, but just to say, if we get a choice where we put our feet, they're in line with the spine, the knees straight out to the side from the hips, the knees one above the other. So we've done one or two things from here before. This time it's a little different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hands behind my head and then just let the back of the head rest on the palms and the arms rest down. Now, before I do much else, I want to gently push the knees together. And then all I'm going to do is look upward, and this elbow, that would be my top side, that elbow wants to drop open and drop back, and you'll feel the shoulder dropping a bit downward and the shoulder blade dropping a bit downward. Now we reach the point usually where we're starting to look at that top elbow going away from us. So when you find you're doing that, just pause and turn the head on the hands back so you're looking at the lower elbow. And so now looking at the lower elbow, see if you can soften for that upper arm, the elbow you can't see, and let it, that shoulder and shoulder blade just sink toward the ground. And then go to the spine. So just a tiny tuck in the tailbone. And the back of the waist going back. And see what you can do with the neck. Keeping the neck lined up with the rest of the spine. Once we've checked the back body, letting this elbow, we don't see the upper side, just letting it drop away toward the ground. Okay, we're going to leave here. So this upper elbow lifts back up again and comes forward. So the elbows, just like we're wrapping the arms around the head, and just pause there for a moment. And then to get all the way out of here, I'm going to undo my hands, top arms, bottom arm. They're going to press down. I'm going to work myself up. We're going to keep ourselves face towards the camera. So we'll just flip sides. So I'm going to get up onto this other side. It's now the bottom side. I can line up my legs here and then work my way down. So I'm going to stay on my side. And I can set up, if I'm staying on my side, I can set up my hands and arms here. And I can just wrap them around the head. So elbows pointing forward. I want to keep adjusting in the beginning here my feet and knees until they really feel in position. And then when I'm ready here, I'm going to start to drop this upper elbow back. As I do that initially, I'm going to let my head turn a little bit and maybe watch it travel back. Don't have to do that. But for full effect, I'm going to turn my head back looking at this lower elbow. So now I'm going to tuck my tailbone, move the back of the waist back, move the neck back. Okay. Bring the attention into that upper arm, the arm and shoulder blade, that whole shoulder structure that's doing its best to release toward the ground. We're not dropping it by pressing it, but we're doing our best to release it downward. And then when we're ready to leave, this upper arm, upper elbow lifts up and travels all the way back over. So now we're on the side again quite clearly. And then that upper arm, the palm presses down, lower arm reaches out. We're going to walk ourselves back up. And let's see. And we're going to come onto the back again with the knees bent, the feet flat. Let the back rest here for a moment. And once again, we're going to reach the knees. We're going to draw them in. Now, last thing we're going to do, I'm going to let my right foot touch back down. I'm going to stretch up my left leg. I'm going to slide the hands up the back of the leg. So I have a little bit of weight on my right foot. Hands holding on the left leg where the arms can relax. So I'm going to press a little bit upward through that left heel, a little bit downward through that right foot, and you'll feel the hips either float just off the ground or the weight come out of the hips. When I breathe out, I'm going to tuck my chin, I'm going to lift up, I'm going to look at that left leg, and while I'm looking at the leg is going to push out away from me, and I'm going to pull it towards me, and it's going to push away. And when I inhale, I'm going to return the head. I'm going to bend the left knee, return the foot. I'm going to do the same thing on the right side. So the right leg comes up. I run the hands up the back of the leg. So add a bit of weight to the left foot, push up in the right heel. So you can feel the weight come out of the hips. I breathe out, I lift toward the leg. So as I draw the leg in with my arms, the leg pushes away. And then inhale, return the head. Now bend that right knee, bring in the left knee. Take the arms on the insides of the legs and just slide the hands down toward the feet. If you can grab the feet, that's great. And then just see if you can open the knees to around 90 degrees and find a place where we're just holding the legs, holding the arms, so they're kind of all self-supporting here. We don't have to use a lot of active strength. And follow the breath down into the low belly. And then this is close up the knees again, let the feet come down and return the legs to the mat. And then just let the left knee fall outward. Find the outside edge of the left foot and press down the leg so that foot scrapes down long. And then the right knee falls outward. Outside edge scrapes down and the right leg is long. And let the arms rest. The hands can be on the low belly or the arms away from the sides of the body. And just following the breath down into the belly. See if we can find the breath where it enters through the nasal passages and all the different parts of our body responding to the breathing. And let's move again in our fingers, in our toes, in the ankles, in the wrists. As we're ready with an inhale, reach in the arms, stretch in the legs. And when we're ready with an exhale, pull the knees in, hold on, and just shift the weight side to side. And taking ourselves over onto either side. As we're ready to, coming up to sitting.